agree, Mr. Roselle, that the people will buy into this project and be willing to support this project. And I think that's the way we have dealt with every other group, whether it be, you know, Lake Caroline, looking at providing water to that community or any other community. We've said everybody needs to understand they have to pay their way. If it's 125 homes, it will not work, and we all know it will not work. And so it may be before we go to spending the money for the next step. But I have no problem in supporting the next step, Mr. Roselle. But I think maybe we should get some assurances that it's going to.
I think you're correct. We need really, if we don't get support from the community, like you say, you know, this project could die on its own. But I think what we need to do is, as we're getting into the next phase of, you know, getting the design started and investigating funding sources, whether it be, you know, the possibility of grants or 0% loans or whatever our consultant can come up with, that at the same time we need the cooperation of the POA, and we do have some of the officers of the POA here this evening. They're very supportive, obviously, of this project. Right. And I think what we need to do is get them to assist us, as opposed to the consultant sending these out now to get the property owners involved in some kind of door-to-door things to get a higher percentage. Right. And just based on the ones who have actually responded to the survey, like I say, that's a pretty high percentage. And I think if you see people knocking on your door, yeah, we'll get a higher response. So. And
I understand that, and I agree with that. And I guess my thought process is, when you ask someone to put their name on the dotted line, it causes them to think twice, and it causes them to stop and, you know, question as to whether they want to commit themselves to, because it is $2,800 over a 7-year period they're going to be committing to, in addition to the water bill that they're going to be committing to. I'm not sure what the water bills are in Caroline Pines at this point. It may be higher than what they would realize.
I expect when the POA folks get involved, they can sort of present the options of, here's what it will cost for the county to come in, here's what it will cost if we have to, as a POA.
I would like, Mr. Roselle, I would like to see us, but again, we move ahead with the next phase of looking at funding and things of that nature. There's certainly no problem with that, but I just would like to see us to tie down what the people are going to be committed to.
Yes.
Okay.
Agreed.
Thank you, Mr. Roselle.
Thank you, Mr. Akers. Mr. Seeley? And I have to echo some of Mr. Akers' sentiments that I think we need commitment from folks before we go much further, because the next phase, this is about $185,000 for engineering, and I don't know that we can spend that at this point in time with the economic situation that we're currently in, and without a good, solid commitment from the homeowner side. I understand the need for water, but I also understand that there's a good bit of work that needs to be done on lines inside the community, and I don't think that we ever really figured out what that cost was going to be or how much work we needed to do on those. Actually, sum total came to. And I think we need to understand that moving forward as well. I know they were talking about, they had water tank issues that had to be resolved. They were looking at not doing those until they figured out whether or not we were going to be able to move. And I just don't, in the economic times we're in, with the budget we're getting ready to go look at, I'm not sure we can move forward with the engineering side of this with a lot of unknown variables. People connecting, infrastructure changes that we'll have to make inside. Those are my concerns at this point. Not that it wouldn't be a project that would be beneficial, but I'm just not sure we can afford it without a whole lot of commitment from the homeowner side as well.
Just one point. You mentioned the tank. If they continue to operate their system, there are some tank issues they need to address. Those are facilities that we really would not be using. So we would not go in and fix those, because we wouldn't be using those. So there are pipeline issues, very definitely. Those we will have to address.
Okay, Mr. Thomas?
Yes, sir. Mr. Borshak, one question, and I'm just trying to think a little further past this project, because it was something we brought up when we originally thought about it. The distance from Caroline Pines to the State Fair was a little more than a mile?
Yes, somewhere, yeah, a little more than a mile.
okay, and you may not have this with you, but if you could find out, as we try to put it all together, if you could find out what the amount of revenue the state fair pays to the county, which the county then pays to Hanover for water, or the amount of money, that would help with the entire equation, because if we look at a 20-year project, maybe we could add that on and include that 20 years, and we'd get, twice as much bang for the buck. So if you could just look at that for me, I'd appreciate it.
We can do that.
Okay, so
That was it for me. Thank you.
all right. And certainly, I'd just like to say that yes, the Caroline Pines Property Owner Association, they're the ones who came to us. I think the citizens who live in Caroline Pines are well aware of what's occurring at Lake Landor today as we speak, and they're trying to head that same problem off now rather than later. And I think the majority of the people there understand that, if there's not an answer to the short-term problem, that long-term they're going to pay a whole lot more than what they would ever pay, in the county system. And as the study has shown, the system out of the gate pays its way. And I think that's certainly good. So I think we had a commitment. I don't think nobody in Caroline Pines is going to be surprised that they need to do something with their system. They're very close to to being at the point where it's almost an emergency at times with the system that they have. So I think the people are well aware, of their need there. And I think user agreements are something that we can't just do, one here and there. We have to do all.
Oh, yes.
And the Property Owner Association has already recognized that, and they support that concept. So I think we're moving in the right direction. But if the board would allow Mr. Borchek to move forward with the agreement with to move forward with the agreement with the Courtney Rogers and the group to look at some funding options and where we would, how we make it work, to see what those numbers would look like.
Yeah.
And by all means,
at the
I agree.
same time, I think we can have the POA folks look at the question that Mr. Akers and Mr. Seeley and I guess Mr. Thomas to an extent have. What kind of support do we have? Knowing what money we can get is fine, but knowing where the hard cash is going to come from is good too.
Exactly, because we explore our options. There may be the zero interest or low interest loan opportunities out there, and possible grants as well. So we'll do that, and right from the front, I think all the folks in Caroline Pines, they all need to know that it's all or none, and I think that's already been made clear to those folks. And
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we go ahead and allow staff to go to the next level without expending any more funds. Now, I realize we've got to pay Davenport, Courtney Rogers, for doing the research that they do, but that's going to be a minimum amount, a minimum cost. But before we do anything else, that's going to cost. And that's what my motion is going to say, that we do look at the financial end of the project.
Second.
okay, motion been made and probably second that we allow Davenport to explore the funding options. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. All right, motion carries.
Thank you, and as soon as we get a report, we'll have it before you gentlemen again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
I think I'm
John,
next.
you're next.
Too. I think I'm next too, yes.
Yes, sir. Give us the update on the renovation for the former Commissioner of Revenue's office and County Museum.
Okay, as far as the Commissioner of Revenue's office, I know we presented some estimates and kind of a breakdown of who's going to do what kind of work, county forces as opposed to contractors. And just to give you an update on where we stand with some of the work, what actually has been done, and what we're still getting prices for. County forces have done some sealing, the back wall. We caulked the windows. And so that back wall issue and windows has been, I guess, moisture-proofed or waterproofed. They've also installed a new support for the electrical panel. In the past, that there's been a moisture issue down there, and so it needed a replacement for that. There is currently not a moisture issue, but the panel was replaced because of previous moisture damage. They have waterproofed the basement area so that there's not any leakage in the basement or that back wall. We are currently waiting for quotes on removing the non-insulated ducts and putting them up into the ceilings, because the non-insulated ducts are a cause of some moisture problems as they abut walls and things of that nature. So to get them up above the ceilings, we're getting some prices on those. And quotes on the installation of the tie rods, which would be the structural issue as far as stabilizing the walls in there. And basically, those two items we will have done by contractors as soon as we can get the quotes and get the numbers to you gentlemen for approval. The work that's being done by county forces, for the most part, is pretty much finished. Some of it will have to kind of go back in and finish up after the work by the contractors has been done. But as far as what we're able to do prior to the contractors getting in there, we're pretty much done with that. And as soon as we get the quotes in, we will have them presented for approval and for moving ahead. Any questions on the museum building?
Questions, gentlemen? Mr. Popovich? Mr. Akers?
My question is the project cost that you show here, is that the total, or what are we looking at beyond that total project cost? The amount. Not
That's with the estimates on the structural also, I believe what we put in.
Structural repair and other repairs required.
That's our estimate on the cost, yes. And like I say, we're getting actual quotes on that now to see. We're hoping they obviously come in that range, but yes, we're anticipating that that's the.
My other question was, I may be mistaken on this issue, but I was thinking that some of the funds were going to come from the park, if you will, that we could use some of those funds on the building repair.
It's my understanding that that's not the case.
It doesn't look like that's going to happen, Mr. Ake. After our first meeting we had with the Victory Park and the consultant that was involved, I don't think we're going to be able to use any of the.
Is that based on what the consultant says, or is it based on what
the discussions
says?
with the transportation people? We don't think that's going to happen. Gary, am I saying that correct?
Yes, sir. Okay. All right, Mr. Seeley?
Now I think that covers it.
All right. Mr. Vice Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Borshak, I find myself having a hard time saying this, but I think these estimates are really, really low for everything we were going to do. I thought we were talking a lot more, so I feel happy that it's low, but I want to make sure that there's nothing else we're missing. Is anything else you think we're missing?
These are, we had our structural consultant come in and do an evaluation. So, I mean, we did have the structural people take a look at this.
Okay, because that was our big concern before, was structurally whether it was
right.
Okay.
And that's why we had an outside firm come in and do it, so that we, would have the expertise. So.
Okay. The other thing is you got wall scraping and primer. So I take it you're going to leave the walls primed and scraped but not painted.
In discussions we've had actually with the museum folks, they have seemed to be more than happy to do the painting. If it comes down to, we can do the painting if it comes down to that. It'll be a matter of, just finding the time to do it. But I know in some of the discussions with the museum folks, they indicated they would not have a problem in doing the final painting.
Okay, well, let me give you just a little insight, as I'm on the museum board, and I don't think there's a lot of people in there who can paint. So, I mean, they may be able to, but my opinion, and I'm definitely saying it for me, is I'm not a painter. So I would like you to, if you could, include painting in there so we could make this kind of a turnkey operation. I would, of course, defer to them if there's a color selection issue or something like that. But I think what the board's intention was, I'm sure, when we first talked about this, is we get the building in a given condition and turn it over to them, right? And that's pretty much it. So I'd say we should paint the building or paint the inside, not the building, but paint the walls inside and pretty much say, that's it, we've done what we're going to do. And if you could add that, I'd be most appreciative. Thank you, sir. That's all.
Okay, done.
Okay, so general consensus that we let him proceed with getting the RFP bids on that process. All right, I think you
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
have what you need, right?
I believe so.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Okay, next we have the appointments. First, the Recreation Advisory Committee, I think the school member. We need to have, Mr. Parton, do you have a report on that?
Mr. Chairman, the name of Robert Jenkins, who is a PE teacher at Bowling Green Primary, has been put forth as a possible appointment.
Okay, and that's Robert Jenkins.
Mr. Parton, before you go away, I know it's excuse me, Mr. Chair, but I know it's a school representative, but wasn't it a student in the past?
There's also a separate student representative.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think that's the only one we have for the Recreation Advisory Committee. Motion's in order, if so desired.
Second.
Okay, motion moved and properly second for Mr. Robert Jenkins. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Now we have the the Industrial Development Authority, Port Royal District and at-large district. Mr. Popovich?
I'm not ready to make that appointment at this time.
Okay.
The next meeting, I will be ready for that.
All right. And
Someone contacted me?
has anyone contacted the IDA folks, the current members? Mr. Parton or Mr. Wilson?
I don't believe we have yet, Mr. Chairman, waiting board direction on that.
Okay, and I think, we'll certainly give you more as the weeks go on, so we put it on the next agenda item, and we'll give you our input and thoughts on that from the board point of view. Okay, next item, we have the consent agenda, and board members have had time to review the consent agenda. And any items board members like to pull?
Mr. Chairman, and this is on my part of had not had time since the last board meeting, but would like consideration of pulling E out and postponing it until the next board meeting one more time.
Okay, so your motions to approve the consent agenda, but pulling item J?
Item E.
E?
Item E.
And we have additions from item K.
Yeah, remember we included item K. Right, the rail.
So your motion is going to add K.
I will gladly add item K.
Okay.
Second.
All right, motion made, proper second, that we accept the consent agenda, item pulling E, and we did add K. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. Motion carries. Okay, did you want any discussion on that, or just want to put it on next month?
Next month, I've been provided some data, I just haven't had time to work with it.
Okay, and I think, just by next month, we can stop the clock from ticking on that one.
I think so.
It's costing us money every month. And if the board is determined to turn it back over, then I think we need to stop paying interest on the money and go and get it over with and turn it back over. So I would hope that first meeting in February we'll be able to vote to turn the money back and move on.
Certainly. And Mr. Seeley will have time to talk to his constituents, let him know that, our intentions. So, okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, Mr. Ashcraft, is there anything we want to take, or are we ready to take our break?
School board's here.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing we could do is item 8, if you wanted Ms. Hatcher to review. You have the reports. It's a short narrative in the front. Would you want her to go ahead and complete that?
We have time to do it, gentlemen? I think so. I think we'll go ahead and have Ms. Hatcher come up, and at this time we'll bring the board members up to date on the financial year 2010 second quarter budget. Ms. Hatcher, good evening.
Chairman, members of the board, in your packet is my second quarter status report, and there's not a whole lot I can say other than what's in my report. You can tell that the revenues are lower this time for the second quarter of this year versus second quarter of last year. And if you were to take other years, I think you'd find they've been declining for a while. Our general fund revenues collected date's actually a little bit higher, basically because of the public service tax increase that we received from Virginia Power. The rest of our revenues are a little bit lower. Collections right at the moment for real estate and personal property are a little bit higher than they were this time last year. I think it's due to pushing to get some collections and foreclosure monies coming in from the banks. As you can see, their permits continue to decrease, which is a sign of the economy and the lack of building progress. And the one thing I do want to point out is right now for the second quarter, the general fund expenditures are actually lower than they were this time last year, which is good, means how the revenues are also lower. The other thing that you need to keep in mind that you do have increased debt service from the previous year. So of course that's going to be higher than what it was before. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, the increased debt service was the Lewis and Clark addition?
Lewis and Clark and a couple of the refundings. And there'll be another one in August.
Okay. All right, and the general fund expenditure was almost $1.2 million lower
That's correct.
than this time last year.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, any additional questions of Mrs. Hatcher?
Ms. Hatcher, you put in this report, which is a real good report, and I like the way that you put it together, and it really looks nice. But you've indicated that 61.2% of a debt retirement is for schools.
That's correct.
I didn't see where you broke it out as to how much was for utilities or general fund, other than schools being almost 62%.
In the debt retirement fund, you have your general fund debt and the school
I'm
and your
talking
school debt.
percentages. I'm speaking of percentages. How much of the 100%? 100%, 62% of it is schools.
62% is of just the general fund and school fund combined.
Okay.
61% of your debt service fund payments is now for schools. The utility debt is in the utility fund and it's separated out.
All right. So the other 38 is for the general fund. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, other board members have questions? Mr. Vice Chairman?
Ms. Hatcher, one thing, and I was just trying to find it again, but I didn't see. We have, or the sheriff has a selective speed enforcement line in his budget, and I'd just like you to figure out where we stand with that, because that was basically the money that the board gave the sheriff money for radar, basically, and I want to know how much revenue the county's getting back from that, and I didn't see it in here. I'm sure it's in here, but it's in something else.
As of December 31st, it was like 289 versus 327 last year.
That's
So
not in here.
it's in this report here.
Okay, because I just scanned.
It's in this report.
What page is that?
If you look under revenue,
See, I just hit.
court fines and fees, we collected through December 31st, 289, 693 this year.
Oh.
We collected 327, 843 last year.
It's under
So we're
court
down
fees.
about, what, $38,000 in that
Alright.
category.
Let me look for court fees. I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm just trying to.
It's on, well, I don't see the pages numbered, but it's probably like on a page 3. It says fines and forfeitures.
Fines and forfeitures is on page 8. Comes after the regular permits.
All right. Give me a second. I'm just trying to get my glasses straight. Okay. Thank you. I got it.
Okay,
All right. That's what it is. So it is 168,000 or less.
Yes, sir.
right.
Thank you.
And obviously, because of the building industry, you know, everything tied to that, you can see revenues are down, you know, in that area. But certainly, for all our staff and different departments who have brought it this, under this point, you know, from this point, this time last year, I think it's a good sign that, you know, our folks are buckling down and doing the things that they have to do to have us at this point where we do have that much less in expenditures. So, good job for county staff and Constitution officers and those who have been participating in that.
That's what that's for.
Mr.
I have a
Mr.
question.
Akers? Yes, sir.
We do break out, you know, the speeding enforcements and things of that nature as far as revenues are concerned, the court fines and forfeitures, those type of things.
I believe we book them all as one. I'll
So
have
we
to
do
double
not have-
check with the treasurer and find out if they are broken out.
Can we also break out the expenses? So we need to know whether we're, you know, what's happening there. And we did this once before, if you recall, some years back.
Right.
Yeah.
Or match up where we are.
And Beth,
Okay.
Well, expenditures would have to come from the sheriff to you for overtime, because that's, you know, that's what the money was given to him. The extra money was given to him for.
That's correct.
I want to know the revenue number. So,
See what I can get.
because this
Okay.
court fines and fees is all court fines and
That's
fees,
correct.
not just selective speed enforcement. And
That's
what I'm
correct.
But isn't that the
searching for.
bulk?
It is the bulk.
It is the bulk of whatever, probably 95% of this,
Yeah.
this revenue is that amount. And what I'd like to know is how much of that pot of money we give them, how much is being spent.
Okay, I'll get that information for you.
all right. Thank you so much for the fine report.
Thank you.
Thank you, recess, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, board will take a recess till 7:30. Okay. We'll now call the Carolina County Board of Supervisors meeting back to order. And at this time, we welcome everyone who has come in at this point. And we will now have our public comment period. And I would ask Mrs. Hall if she would read the rules for the comment period.
The public comment period shall be for the purpose of allowing the public to speak to the board on any matter which is not scheduled for public hearing at this meeting. To help conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, please refrain from clapping or other public demonstrations of support or opposition. The public comment period shall not serve as a forum for debate with the board or a question and answer period with the board. Remarks shall be addressed only to the board and not to staff, the audience, or the media. All public comments shall be made in a respectful manner. Cursing and antagonistic behavior are prohibited and shall be grounds for removal from the meeting. Comments should focus on matters or issues before the board or county and not individual board members or staff. Comments which single out an individual board member or staff may be ruled out of order by the chair. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name, address, and voting district. If applicable, there shall be a time limit for each speaker of 3 minutes. No speaker shall address the board more than once during the public comment period at any single board meeting. The county administrator will time the speakers and notify them when their time has expired. Copies of the detailed rules are located on the back table.
Okay, at this time, the board would welcome citizens who would like to address the board. So if there are any citizens who would like to address the board, come forward, state your voting name and your voting district.
Good evening. I'm Susan Seeley from the Bowling Green District, and Mr. Chairman, I would like to invite the Caroline County Board of Supervisors, and you especially, and I'm singling you out,
okay,
to the American Cancer Society Caroline County Chapter Relay for Life, which is going to be June the 5th at Caroline High School again, starting at noon. And Mr. Roselle, we would really like for you to deliver our opening comments. The theme this year is High Noon on Cancer. And we've got some new programs going on. We've got an expanded children's activity area. We'll have the dunking booth again. Got a moon bounce and Hickey the Clown and other activities that will go on that day. So, and some really good entertainment. So if we could get that on you gentlemen's radar screen, it would be much appreciated. June the 5th.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much. Any other citizens who'd like to address the board on any matter except for the public hearing that we have tonight?
Yes, my name is Dolores Brown. I live in the Mackinac District. I would like to come for the board concerning the new schedule that started January 19th for the Fred bus. I would just like to read a few examples of why this new schedule is not going to work for the citizens of Caroline County. My name is Dolores Brown. I live near the DSS bus stop, 4722. I would like to tell the board and the Fred Transit that some of the problems with the new schedule. For example, I cannot ride the bus to Bowling Green anymore, especially in the morning time. For example, the stop at DS, when the bus leaves, they do not go back into the town of Bowling Green. The second example, and there will be several examples, the old schedule, I could ride the bus to Bowling Green, to the doctor's office, to the county administrator, to the bank, to the post office, even though I had to walk from the town hall to those stops. Another example, with the new schedule, I could get on the bus at 11 o'clock. I could not get back on the bus until 1 o'clock. That is too long of a period of time to stay in Bowling Green to tend to a doctor's appointment or a few business things. Another problem I have with the schedule is I cannot make doctor's appointments or go to Murray Washington Hospital to visit friends and family that might be in the hospital, because this would take too long of a time transferring from one bus to another, riding an extra hour than what we usually ride. Another example of the old schedule is the Fred station. We used to get there at 9:30. Now the bus don't get to Fredericksburg to Lee Hill until 10 o'clock. This means if the old schedule was, I could be at Murray Washington Hospital at 9:45 a.m. I could make doctor's appointments and go visit family and friends around 10 o'clock. I'm not the only person with this problem. A friend of mine, Miss Washington, who's sitting out in the audience, is a friend of mine who calls me a lot to ask me what time can I make my doctor's appointment so I can ride to Fred. And she also would ask me to ride along with her to make sure she got on the right buses. That was for the old schedule. The new schedule, we would not be able to do that. It would take half of the day to get there, and we have no idea about this new schedule, how it really works to get us to different places. So I feel that a lot of us that ride the bus would like for the bus to go back to the old schedule. The changes I would like to see added to the old schedule is the Chevron on 301. I would like for that to become a permanent stop which it is on the new schedule, but not the old schedule. It was a flag down. My next stop I would like to see change. I would like to see Caroline County RACSB. I would like to see that be a stop. I would like to see some other changes. I would like to see the old schedule that was on Tuesdays and Thursdays to the same old schedule. No, excuse me. I would like some changes to the old schedules. For example, Tuesdays and Thursdays to the same old schedule that was on Wednesdays and Fridays. That means on Wednesdays, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, the bus went to Dawn and Port Royal, and we were able to go to Fredericksburg and stay until 4:30 if you wanted to. But some of the people, and I also think if we put bus every day, Monday through Friday, to the old schedule like it was on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that this will give some of the people in Dawn and Port Royal a more opportunity to ride the bus. And they might even want to come up to Bowling Green more often. Finally, I ask the board and the Fred Transit, please listen to the people that ride the bus and get their opinion. Thank you, Dolores Brown.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Any other citizens who'd like to address the board? State your name and your voting district, please.
My voting district is Bowling Green, Virginia. I'm here to represent the Fred bus as well. My employees that work at the Petro and McDonald's and also the Wendy's. The old schedule was very good. I could get my employees to work and from work. Right now, I have to change a schedule, and I thank God we're not out of a job right now, and I don't want them to be, but if I have to change my schedule, I'm afraid that might happen. I've been, adjusting their schedules because they can come in on the Fred bus. Right now, some of them cannot get to work, so we're having a problem with that. And I would appreciate if they could adjust their schedules.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for addressing the board. Are there any other citizens who would like to address the board at this time?
Mr. Chairman, board members.
Yes, sir.
My name is Glenn McDermott. I'm the Vice Mayor of Bowling Green, also the former chairman of the Bowling Green Milford Sub-Planning Committee. And
Okay,
I'm here
are you
tonight.
going to talk on the
Yes.
public hearing?
Yes.
That's scheduled next?
You want me to wait for that?
Yes, sir, if you
Cool.
would.
No problem.
If you'd wait for that, I appreciate it.
Be glad to.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any other citizens who would like to talk, address the board on any matter other than the public hearing that we have tonight? Any other citizens who would like to address the board on any matter this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll declare the public comment section closed. Also, Mr. Thomas has a statement to make. I think, are the Fred folks here? Okay, so they're going to give us a report in just a few minutes. And I would also remind certainly our seniors that, with the Rappahannock Area Agency on Aging and doctor's appointments, there's another avenue for you to use, another tool to get to your doctor's appointments. So don't forget, if you're a senior, I think it's 60 and older, that's another opportunity for seniors to get a ride to the doctor's appointment as well. But we do have the Fred folks here, and they're going to talk to us in just a little bit after the public hearing about the routes. So is that good, Mr. Vice Chairman?
One more thing. I just want to thank Mrs. Brown. I've been in contact with Mrs. Brown and a couple of other folks that ride Fred, and I think there's a few folks here that are interested in Fred. If you would just raise your hand so we can make sure we know who they are. Okay, so it's this particular group of folks. Thank you.
All right. Okay, at this time, the next topic, we do have our public hearing for this evening. It's RZ 06-2009, Brookwood LLC. Owner applicant requests a rezoning from R1 residential with a density of 1 to 4 dwellings per acre to B1. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your public hearing tonight is RZ 06-2009, Brookwood LLC, owner and applicant. They're requesting a rezoning from R1 residential with a density of 1 to 4 dwelling units per acre to B1 Business, no